This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning, everybody. We've got a couple folks here, and we're kind of discussing a lot about the hiring during this COVID age right now and all of the laws and things you need to know about regarding your company if you're growing or if you are in a state of flux. And so today with us, we have Frank Jones with Career Source. Frank, you to everybody, let everybody know which screen you're in. We have
Hey,
Millicent
everybody.
Griffin. Yep, there's Frank. Millicent, you're on somewhere?
Right here.
There she is. I'm sorry. I've got people all over the screen and trying to find where they are. We have Roger Lear, and there he is. And then
Good morning.
Roger Lear is with Career Source, and we also have Jennifer Englert from the Orlando Law Group. So for those that don't know these folks, say hello to everybody. And I'm going to let you guys just a real quick, I wanted to just do an introduction to who they are, but I want to let you guys tell a little bit of who you are, what your organization does, and what you do for that. And then we'll jump into some of these questions and piece there. So just going back around, Frank, you want to start this and kind of introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Frank Jones. I'm a business consultant with Career Source Central Florida. Our main goal is to connect Central Florida talent with businesses. Whether you're small, medium, large, growing, does not matter. We are here to connect the talent here in the region to your business and help you find your next superstar employee.
Great. All right, moving on to the next. Millicent, tell us about you and your company.
Hi, I'm Millicent. I'm the CEO to EM2 HR Alliance, and we are a administrative services organization where we help businesses with their employment and employees and employment data. And we handle HR, payroll, and benefits as well.
Wonderful. And then Roger, introduce yourself.
Yeah, good morning, Roger Lear, president of OrlandoJobs.com for the last 15 years. Our site is just dedicated to Central Florida. We have jobs across the sectors and so forth, and we do a lot of events around the community, probably over 40 events a year to bring job seekers and employers together to hook them up and get them jobs, and some really good stuff.
And Jennifer, you want to round out this group here? Tell us about you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jennifer Englert in the Orlando Law Group. We are a full-service law firm. We have a full suite of everything that a business needs, which includes dealing with their employee issues. So I'm here to get some input on that sort of thing.
Wonderful. Well, this is our panel. So if you have questions, if you want to text them in, as we're going along, we can probably do that, start accumulating them. But let's kind of just jump in here. Let's to size up the audience real quick. Just how many of you, and you can do it by show of hands or a click on the piece here. Anybody here, what are your major concerns? We know that there's going to be time for hiring, and there's going to be time that we may have to furlough or lay off some employees. What is your main concern here, so we can guide some of these questions? If I can get that from you real quick, feel free to put that in the chat line so that our panel knows where we're going with some of the questions. But with that, so go ahead and type that in if you can. That would be wonderful. If you have chat, if not, let us know on there if you're just on a call. But what are employers looking for? And I mean, and you guys that are here on here, if you have a business, feel free to chime in with this. But from our panel, what is it that we're looking for with that? Anybody want to chime in on that one?
I mean, I interviewed someone this week. If I could just talk about what we're doing. So, I mean, we did furlough and lay off a couple people. To some extent, some of that was strategic. Some of that was it was easier for them, a bunch of different reasons. But there's already people in my industry being laid off by other firms. So we interviewed somebody who was laid off. I think everybody's going to have a bunch of people in their industry probably looking, so it's a good time to potentially upgrade and or add a piece that you're looking for. This person has some business that they're going to be able to bring to the table. So that's why we interviewed them. So I think the other part of it is that people will eventually figure out is if you're getting that the paycheck protection loan, it's only forgivable, 75% of it at least is only forgivable up to the ability that you use it for payroll. So somebody who does furlough a lot or lay off a lot of people, then you still have to replace that salary with someone. So that's part of what we're doing too. People that you lay off and furlough are able to go look for other jobs, and they can go, even if you plan to bring I try to make that clear to my people, but there is going to be some opportunity out there in the world. I'm seeing people like Roger. I mean, they are posting jobs. There is opportunity. So one, you might have to replace some people that might not have a reason, take this opportunity to move or whatever. And then two, it's what's out there in the industry because people are going to be laid off and looking, I think. So while hiring might not be something you're thinking about doing, you probably at least need to be considering it for those couple of reasons. That's how I'm looking at it.
So to moderate this a little bit, with these furloughs, you touched on that. You're going to let some people go, but then within what, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, you need to hire these people back to get people in and replace them. So we're going to expect to need more employees once this is over. So is there any rules or guidelines, or how does that work with, if you've let people go and then coming back into your workforce? And what are the resources that you have at your hands for those?
I think the best strategy for that would be for the owners to keep in touch with the employees to see, where they are. This way they will get like at least some type of forecast of who will be returning. Some may come back and say that they already found a job, so they already know that that person will need to be replaced. So, if you already start putting yourself in a position where you know where you stand with your employees, you will know how to handle things when everything is done and over with. So you can start building your pipeline for your new hires. If you go into Indeed and place the job posting out there or on Career Builders or on Orlando Jobs and place it out there, because if you do it at the end, you're going to be behind the eight ball. So I would suggest that you start, interacting with whoever is laid off to find out where they are, and then decide how you're going to build your pipeline. So when that time comes, you already have resumes there that you can call people in to do an interview. We can't not assume that everyone in a particular organization is not going to be returning, because it's all based on, the benefits that they received and how the employer treated them and how much they were getting paid. Them getting a job here may not be the same as the other job, and they may just be coming back. What they have now could just be temporary. So it's a good idea for the employers to keep in touch with their employees, and also, find out if they need anything, because if you let your employees know that you're there for them, they have a better chance of coming back to you and being more committed to you.
Do you,
Yeah,
go ahead, Frank.
just to chime in on that, we've had historically low unemployment numbers for a couple of years now. So you have really this talent pool that's out there who has a lot of skills, have a lot of experience, and now is really a perfect time to start locating those people. Um, just to kind of give you an idea, Career Source, we are the administrators for Employ Florida, which is the largest job search site for the state. So, placing your position on Indeed, Career Builder, and then in addition to that, using Employ Florida, anyone who goes on unemployment typically had to go on Employ Florida and create an account. That's being relaxed a little bit right now with the difficulties we're seeing with filing for unemployment, but it's just another avenue to go to as far as harvesting those candidates we need once we get over this thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I actually think the bigger challenge for everybody is the unknown, and that's what's really interesting. You have so many things working together right now, and number one, you talk about all your employees, like all of our employees. We want them all back, of course, but is the business model going to be there when the economy comes back? Nobody knows, and how quick that can happen. Number two, on the 16th, Disney's furloughing everybody. And that means they're all going to apply, if they haven't already, start applying for unemployment. If Disney reopens on May 1st, the people that are on unemployment, are they going to be able to get all those employees back, quickly? Where are, the key employees in these organizations, that have been furloughed, laid off, and so forth? Everybody's waiting to see what happens with the economy once whatever that switches, and nobody knows that. And that's going to be the biggest challenge with all the stimulus and everything else. That money, that the payroll money from the stimulus package, is forcing employers to keep their employees, or they can't get that money anyway, or they'll have to pay it back. And that's a great program, but it lasts 2.5 months. And after 2.5 months, if the economy is not back, and when you start that, it's going to be an interesting rest of the year. But I think, Orlando, out of all the cities in the world, this is a resilient city. So if you remember the Great Recession, and Orlando led the nation in recreating jobs, and it all started because of Harry Potter. And we talked about the butter beer effect, because Harry Potter opened up in the middle of the Great Recession and hired all those folks, and that created our tourism industry. And the same is going to happen again once they flick the switches back on at the parks.
So a question is out there. If you have furloughed or had to let your employees go on this, one, do you have to bring them all back? And what if you had like a problem an employee, or one that you wanted to, let's just say, was working their way out, but you hadn't gotten to that point yet? Do you have to bring them back, or can you let them go without fear of the I'm going to quote this from someone here. It says, without the fear of the PPP forgiveness issues, if you don't bring them back?
Well, I would say that if they were already, well, it all depends on how you handle that problem person prior to everything that was happening. Like, did they know that they were a problem person? Did you write them up? I mean, if you wrote them up and they was already an issue, this would be a good time to clean house, to say, we can't have you come back. You don't need to be, you don't have to be transparent to the point of why. At this point, you can just say, we can't bring you back, or whatever the situation will be. The only thing I would say at that point, the unemployment, that's probably when, that's at that point where you probably will have to pay for the unemployment, because everybody's going back to work and they're saying they don't have work anymore. And the unemployment is where you're probably going to start paying for that. But this would be, I would say, would be a good time to clean house. Those employees that you didn't want and wanted to get rid of, this would be a good opportunity for you to find the good employees, because you have such a big pool now, and then get rid of the ones that you don't have, and that that's what's going to help your business better later on. Then I would suggest that's perfectly fine to do that. This
So
would be the great opportunity.
if a person brings back some of the force, but not all of the force, but then they are actively hiring to replace what's there, does that give them any legal issues that they got to worry about? Jen, anything on that, or Millicent on the hiring side? If they've been furloughed, and I'm sorry if you didn't catch part of that. I know you dropped out for a sec. We were discussing if you're furloughed employees, do you have to bring them all back? And then, like, especially if you had employees that were on the fence, or you weren't sure you were going to want to keep them, or they were the low performers, do you have to bring everybody back? Or can I pick and choose who I want to bring back and then rehire for those other positions that I didn't fill back from employees? So I hope I'm answering, getting around the question that's
I mean,
being
one
asked.
of the things that I would say that If you didn't, and moving forward, you should. Whenever you have a problem employee, you should always write that up. You should have a discipline process because at least they know where they stood and you have something to back you up. I didn't bring this person back because I was having issues with them, but it's a lot more difficult to answer a question like that if the process is not really known, like how it was handled, what the full situation is. Because the most important thing that person needs to worry about is to make sure that whatever their decision is not discriminatory in any form, in any way.
I mean, for my purposes, they're also, I mean, just because you furlough them doesn't mean that they can't get a job also. So it's not, I mean, because furlough versus layoff, furlough, normally you're expecting to bring them back. Layoff, usually when you lay off somebody, the furlough is kind of a weird hybrid that isn't used too much, but everybody's talking about it. People who are laid off, I don't think have a huge expectation of coming back, especially if you did a hybrid of furlough versus layoff. But as long as you're not discriminatory, it is difficult to do a discrimination. A lot of people, we get calls for it all the time, but most people don't really have a viable case. I think as long as you know that they can also get a new job, that you're not going around your office saying, oh, well, thank God we got rid of them because now this is great. We got rid of them, so now we are going to replace them with somebody else. Just be smart. And I know that sounds silly, but people write emails and say stuff like that in the workplace all the time. So as long as you deal with it fairly, you're smart about it, you realize that just because they might not want to come back either. So getting a pipeline and replacing, maybe tweaking job descriptions, it's probably going to come up, but if they weren't a good performer, maybe their job wasn't resonating with your company, it might be a time to just tweak the job and change it, change responsibilities, and then you're not rehiring the exact same job, somebody different for the exact same job that you just laid somebody off for. If it wasn't working, there's probably a reason that maybe you need to retool that anyway. In a lot of situations, not all, but kind of maybe change things up a little bit, and then they can't say it's the same job anyway that they didn't get rehired for and someone else did.
Yeah, don't just change the title. She's right. You also have to change some of the responsibilities. But, you may have someone that says, oh, that's the same thing that I did. But as long as their job description doesn't match Zach, you can't dispute that. And that's what I said. Don't be transparent about what you're doing. But if a person was written up, they already know the chances of them coming back is less than likely. That's why it's so important to have a process.
So we talked a little bit, and go ahead, James, go ahead.
Because we're dancing around my issue, but I just figured we just hit it real fast. I've got a couple employees that when we were really busy, I needed them, but they were still slow performers. Documented issues, they understand that they're on thin ice, been on probation. Now that we're slowing down, there's a fear that I have that if I let them go, if I don't bring them back, or what my time frame is to bring them back, or can I replace them with somebody else as long as I bring them back? I just need to clarify that because I agree this is going to be a time when I could clean house if I need to. I just want to make sure that I'm protected on my side, understanding that we've documented all of our disciplinary processes. Because, if we get the PPP, that it finally ever goes through, I want to be able to make sure that we don't have any forgiveness issues on the backside. And if we don't pull out of this thing like I'm expecting, if I've got, say, 20 employees and I've got to let 6 of them go, and when we come back in 3 more months, I can only bring back 3 employees, we're still in danger of not getting the protection of forgiveness.
In regards to the forgiveness, I think that's why they did it. You only have to have 75% of the money given, even though it's pretty much tied to your employee benefits. Only 75% has to be used for employee expenses to be able to be forgiven. So you already have that 25% cushion that you could use for rent and utilities and that other stuff, because they know, I think everybody's contemplating, you're probably not going to stamp exactly the same way that you did as quickly as you did, because it's a disservice to somebody to bring them back for 2 months that you're not going to keep and then put them back out on the job market. So that's the first bit of protection you have, that extra 25%. And then, I mean, yeah, even I'm going to look at maybe giving a few raises to make up for it. It doesn't just have to be for employees. It could be a new benefit that you give them. It could be a raise you give people. I mean, my assistant, for example, I mean, it's their husband's laid off, but you still want to keep them, a little bit of extra income. So I'm going to kind of look at it globally, and maybe that's where you could make up for it in a raise or a bonus or something, which you could be able to justify for a great employee whose maybe family member got laid off and they need a little bit of extra income right there, or they're going to leave you. So it's not going to be a one size fits all, but those are some strategies that I think you can utilize to still be able to get the forgiveness, and be fair and do a service to your company. And like I said, the employee too. Nobody wants to get fired for 2 months and then laid off again when things are starting to settle.
James, is that good for you on that one? Does that help clarify some of your question?
It does. It does. I guess the only question would be is, is there a time frame I need to be about, 3 months, 2 months, 5 months, end of the year?
The time frame for, I didn't catch that one.
I think how quickly he has to reemploy the people to get the forgiveness. I'm a little bit uncertain from my end. I mean, I've been looking into that. It's a little bit uncertain as far as what the guidelines are going to be exactly, if it's going to be 2 months or 3 months. I mean, I think, and I don't know that anybody's going to get the money as quickly as they said, but it looks like 2 or 3 weeks you might have it. Again, you've got that cushion. What I've been hearing is about 3 months from when you get the money, and know that everybody's going to have rolling to come in at different times. So I'm going to shoot for 3 months as a rule of thumb. As they start writing those guidelines a little bit better, I know we'll put it out. The chamber will put it out, but I'm shooting for 3 months as like a rule of thumb for when you get the money.
Great. Got a couple others that kind of have popped in here. We talked about now hiring a little bit. And Roger, you've got a site where you post job postings, but just putting it out there, are there recommended, what are the recommended sites to post jobs to get the most for your investment? Because I know that there are fees and things like that with things like that. And what are the resources that are available? I know, Frank, you mentioned that also. So let's talk a little bit of where do I go to find these.
Well, right now, career source will probably be the best place because it's free and everybody's unemployed. Right? And then I believe Armin's job pulls from other engines, correct?
Yeah, it does. So we spider in jobs from Indeed, American Jobs. So that's all the vet jobs. And like you said, there's no cost to register as an employer, to post positions. If you need help with getting your job description polished up, we can do that. Yeah, I mean that's you can't beat free.
Yeah. Right now, it's there's a lot of there are a lot of job seekers. The challenge is for those that have jobs open, and right now at Orlando Jobs we have our virtual COVID hiring job fair for just employers that are hiring today. And as of this morning, we have over 75 employers, and it's all complimentary to employers and job seekers and so forth. And we're just excited about the types of jobs on there because, of course, you've got your healthcare jobs, you've got all that other stuff, but we're seeing jobs around, a lot of trade jobs, a lot of customer service jobs, and companies, like Charles Schwab and, obviously your Publix and Walgreens, things like that. But you have a lot of the smaller companies, less than 500 employees, that are looking for a lot of individuals. And there's a couple staffing firms that are doing exactly what you guys were talking about earlier, of knowing what their future needs are to start building that pipeline. And you are able to do that, at Orlando Jobs. You're able to do that at Career Source and start gathering this information. The challenge for employers by far will be, when this thing is over, if you're working somewhere and you've been either furloughed or laid off and you can go back to your old company, you're probably going to go back there. So where that talent pool drops off is going to be the key. And for very specific types of people, the ones that have that skill set that you have been dying to get and just can't find it, those are the people you should be pipelining big time right now and getting a list so you can start using the next few weeks to really identify if they're going to be a fit for your company once things return. And I think that's an unbelievable opportunity because everybody's sitting at home. You have their ears right now for employers.
Yes, and I want to add to that. You have to now look at this as high demand, low supply, low jobs, high demand on employees. Everyone is looking for what you're looking for. So now the question is, what do you have to attract them? What is it that you have that will offer to these people to want to come to you versus to your competitor? Those are things that you have to look at. You have to sit down and say, as an employer, what do I have to offer? How much can I spend on paying this person? How much can I spend on benefits or perks? Do I have any of those benefits and perks? And I can say that being part of the East Orlando Chamber, they have those benefits that you can utilize, right? You have the ancillary benefits if you have less than 50 employees. You can do just ancillary benefits. You don't have to do the medical, but you can do the virtual medical as part of your package and maybe pay that. I think it's like $14, am I right, a month? So you can probably pay that out of your pocket for each one of your employees, the $14 for the virtual doctor, and the ancillary benefits they pay for. So those are benefits that you can give them. Plus with East Orlando Chamber, you have Ticket at Work that all your employees can use. So that's a perk. So I would suggest to take what you get as a member, as you know, in East Orlando Chamber, and you use that as part of your package to start attracting employees to come to you, because everyone is out there. So now you're all in the challenge. You know, who's the best right now? It's the employees. The employees can pick and choose who they want to work for. And it's not like before where they were strapped, you know. So that's something you may want to consider. If you want the best employees that know they're good employees are going to want the best employer.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Go ahead. I know, Gigi, you got one? Go ahead. I know you had a question posted. I was going to move on to him, but go ahead.
Okay. So you're all talking about furloughing and hiring, and my concern is payroll. I do the payroll. So your thoughts are in the future. Mine is this week. What are the laws, the rules built into this PPP loan that say that we have to retain employees? Is there anything? Because at some point they said you can't fire anybody, but maybe that changed before it was all sealed.
Well, it's not, you can, I mean, and I think they contemplated that people already fired and got rid of people. The only requirement is that if you want to get if you want the loan to be forgiven, you have 75% of it for payroll expenses and employee benefits. So kind of like we talked about with James, that means you could bring other people back. That means you could do all sorts of things, or it means it might not be forgiven.
Okay, because I keep reading that all you have to do is use 75% for payroll, but I couldn't believe after everything I heard about you have to keep everybody, you have to pay everybody, you can't, you know, I thought that there were more rules. If that's the only rule I have to follow, then my life just got a lot simpler.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, obviously the amount that you got is 2.5 times your payroll, pretty much. So if you don't, I think the thought is that you will then use it for payroll, otherwise you'll have to pay it back. But yeah, there are no regulations. I mean, the CARES Act, it's pretty light anyway, and the regulations are especially light because they're writing them as they go. It's nothing to bring everybody back or the same people back or any of that. So like I said, the smart employer is thinking, okay, maybe I'll add a benefit like that maybe you didn't have to keep your people, to Millicent's point, or you, like I said, give a raise to somebody whose spouse lost their job, but you still want to keep them. There's a lot of things you can do.
Okay. That was my only real question is what are the laws pertaining to retaining employees? And if that's it, simple.
Yeah, they're not micromanaging to that point. I mean, nobody even knows how they're going to have you prove that you used it only for payroll and those expenses. Then it's written, just as a tip, since it looks like a couple people are going to do this anyway, what we're going to do is have a separate bank account that receives
Have a
the
what?
funds.
Have a what?
Separate bank account that just receives the PPP funds, and then use that bank account to pay your payroll account and then rent after that. So it'll be super transparent. You'll be able to give a couple months of bank statements to show the government, look, here's the money, here's how I spent it. It'll be super easy. So I mean, that's a good, for people who are doing that, that's a good rule of thumb and a way to prove it later when they write about how you have to ask for the forgiveness. Transparent. So that's something to be thinking
Am I
about.
the only one who's missing part of what she's saying? Her audio, and I'm having a really hard time understanding
Yeah,
everything.
audio is breaking up.
Yeah,
I'm
there was,
sorry.
we did have a little bit on that, but from what I got, just to recap from what she said was they set up, or her firm has set up various different accounts to put the money in that when you receive it to pay out of that, so that you can just show your bank statements to be able to track where the dollars came out of, so there was no question of where the money was used from, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Any follow-up? All right, so kind of moving in, I know there's a lot of pieces that are moving with this whole time frame, with the different fundings that have come out, with where we are with the laws. So what are some of the services and things? I know that CareerSource and Orlando Jobs, what are some of the things that you, I know you mentioned you can work with, Frank mentioned this, can work on helping with job descriptions and pieces. What are some of the services that you all utilize with that? And then I think we can segue into some with Millicent there too. So what resources are available for our employers?
Well, with me, I can sit with them and design a job description with them based on how, what they're looking for. It won't be a template. It's really based on exactly what they're looking for. We'll go through the whole process of making sure that they have the tools, what it is that the employer is actually looking for. Basically, I build a job description through the employer's eyes. And then I can also train and assist them on how to do a proper interview, and this way they can hire the correct candidate without having to have that high turnover. And if they don't have like a handbook set in place, I can design one just for them. I don't do anything on template. Everything is customized for the employer, and it's all based on the culture of their business and what exactly it is that they want the employees to follow by, and policies and procedures, and and guidance, with anything. If they have issues with the employee, I can guide them to the proper processes, the best business process to handle that. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I've been in HR for over 15 years, and best practices is what I do. And if it's anything that is pertaining to the law, then I would say, okay, I have to contact the attorney to find out. But most likely, I stick with the law and make sure that everything is, in best practices, not discriminatory. The key thing is to make sure nothing seems to be discriminatory or potentially can be a lawsuit. And I also streamline processes. So if an employer is having issues of having they feel like they're doing way too much work and they feel like, things need to be streamlined and they don't know how to do that. That's where I come in. I can streamline processes to make things easier for them. I have an automated software. Everything is within that software, from incidents, performance reviews, to history of the employee. The employers can get in, the employees can get in, they have their own data, everything is right there. It's a human resource management system. So everything that you need is there. And then if they have a, payroll person that uses QuickBooks, I can integrate that. Or if they need a payroll person, I have one that does that. So I'm there for employers, just like if they had a HR person in-house, but I'm not in-house and they're not paying me the $100,000 where somebody would pay me. They're paying me what they would pay based on the amount of employees that they have there, and it's a flat rate. So whatever needs that they have with employment management, I take those worries away from them because I'm there for them. Payroll, and then I can also help them design the benefits to attract more employees. So the key thing is I help attract and help them retain, and then whatever issues they have later on. And, I will help with the disputes as well when it comes to the unemployment, providing that they have the proper documentation on that employee.
So moving into, you've got, those are resources that are there for employers, but like when it comes to the talent pipeline, or coming up with a plan to find those employees, we talked about a little bit of now's the time to kind of start targeting. What is that kind of? How are we looking at that as an employer? What is the talent pipeline that we need to do, or that guidelines for us to find that right person? I know Roger and Frank, you guys were touching on that in the talent pool. How do we get there, and how do you come up with that plan for who your right person is?
I think a major thing to do is talk to me or one of my colleagues over at CareerSource. We have a talent pipeline that's all set and ready to go. We've sent them to school. We've gotten them, training opportunities maybe with other employers who were not able to retain them. So they have all the soft skills that you're looking for. They have all the hard skills that you're looking for. It's really just a matter of matching up that job seeker to your business. On the flip side, let's say you were to get started a little too late, that talent's all been taken, or you're just not able to find it. That's another conversation that we can have about developing talent before you bring them on board. We can help with maybe just defraying some of those training costs. We have certain programs that we get funding for every year to help with paid internships, paid on the job training. We can actually pay for up to 12 weeks fully based on their salary that you would typically set for that position, up to $20 an hour, of course. But we pay for that 100%, as long as it's going to be a good fit both culturally. They've got to, of course, meet some guidelines according to the state, and it's just got to be a good, like I said, a good culture fit and a good fit for the company overall. But yeah, just having a conversation with somebody such as myself or one of my colleagues in one of our different 5 offices throughout the Central Florida area is going to always be your first step.
And Roger, you talked a little bit about like a recruiting plan. What would that entail for finding the employees? What would a recruiting plan be for somebody that may not have never had to really do that, or to find these employees that are going to be the diamonds that are out there that they might be able to get?
Sure. Well, it all starts with an awesome job description that not only talks about the job, but as we were talking about earlier, is what type of benefits that you can bring to those individuals. You'll never have a more fertile recruiting ground than you have right now today, and for the next 3 weeks. And so the opportunity to gather names and backgrounds and so forth, and use resources like CareerSource or Orlando Jobs, whatever other sites you might want to use, you will certainly be able to get that talent. What you do with that talent is really the key of how you're going to nurture it and so forth with all the uncertainty that's out there and whatnot. I did want to go back to from an employer standpoint of resources that they know. We've been fortunate to talk to over, and Frank's, I'm sure it's the same boat, so many employers, and typically we deal with their human resource person or the business owner themselves. And these guys are unsung heroes, man. They're laying people off, they're furloughing people, they're affecting families, and they have to wear that on themselves. And I really truly believe that any resource that can be provided for the employer, because these questions are amazing that are coming through here, I would tell anybody that is running a business to become a SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management member, SHRM.org. They are doing daily information sessions on every single topic we're talking about here with the top talent people around the country. And it really is, especially from the legal standpoint, a absolutely inexpensive resource that can be used to help through this thing. And I really I feel for these HR people, because they're having to do so many things. And then when things go back the other direction, now they're making decisions who's coming back and how to do. Oh my goodness. When you signed up for human resources, this is not what you signed up for. I can promise you that. You thought you were going to interview and smile all the time, but it's not that.
No, that's not what happened with me. I knew what I was getting into.
God bless you.
I love it though.
So what are some, we're kind of getting into winding down here a little bit, but does anybody have some really good tips or tricks or information you'd like to relay out to folks that are in this, whether it's on the furlough side or planning, like Roger's looking at it, the other side of, hey, here's the time, it's the opportunity to put your time and efforts into getting your folks. What are some of the best tips that you think our businesses can take away from this meeting and during this time for them?
Here's a recruiting tip. I always post on Indeed because other job boards pull from each other. All the job engines, they pull from each other. And the reason why I post on Indeed is because they have a similar to an ATS, or application tracking system, where you can mark the employees, which ones you like, which ones you don't like. You can send an email blast to people at once. I will also suggest that even the ones that you are not interested in, to send an email. It's always good to communicate with everyone who applies to your organization, because when you don't, that one person may be a fit to another job role, and you just burnt them when you don't reply back. They will never apply to your job again. So whether you are interested, not interested, whether they're maybes, do an email blast, make sure that it sounds really nice, not like, sorry, you're not selected. Something really nice, similar to, we found someone closer to what we were looking for, but we're going to keep your information, in case you fit for another role. Thank you for applying. And keep everyone that you don't delete or anything. Keep everyone who applies to all your jobs, because this way you're able to go back and look, because that, it will help you later in the future. And also with Indeed, everything stays there, nothing disappears. But it will help you if you don't have time to go to every job board, one place, and then everyone. I think Orange Jobs, you pull from other search engines, right? Also?
Orlando Jobs?
Orlando Jobs, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, every single job on our site is paid for by the employer, except right now, there's no charge. So,
Okay.
that's how we build our businesses, on natural job postings and
Okay.
relationships and so forth. But on to
All
your
right. So
point.
then I would say to go there too, because
Yeah.
people will go there as well. So Indeed and then there because he doesn't pull from there.
Yeah.
And then have your questions ready. Your questions of which you have to have a set of questions that you're going to ask each individual candidate. They have to be the same questions. You can't just come out and just come up with questions. So have your questions ready of what you're going to ask each one of your candidates and determine what you're looking for within that question. And then from there, you can see who fits your culture and things like that. And the questions that you ask, the best ones are behavior questions, which means that you give them scenarios of situations and see how they handle that and make sure that is in no way or form discriminatory at all.
So Frank, what are some of the tips and things that you might have, or resources, things that you'd like everybody to be able to know about, that you feel that they can benefit from this in this time?
The more information that you put in your job description, the more likely you are to have someone apply for your position. I know employers are typically hesitant to put a pay rate on their job. However, I do see a much larger percentage of people applying for jobs that have accurate pay rates in there rather than just saying to be determined or to be discussed or based on experience. Because people do want to see whether it's going to be worth it for me to even apply for your position. And you're going to get people all walks of life who, maybe that pay rate isn't acceptable to someone, but it's a $3 or $4 an hour raise to somebody else who has the exact skills and is a perfect culture fit for your position.
I agree, putting the rate there is important because that also screens out those that would not be interested, and you're wasting your time talking to someone when you
Exactly.
come out with a pay rate. They go, no, I don't want it. So that makes it a lot easier to get a pool of candidates.
Jen, how about on your end? And I know there's a lot, we've had some questions on a lot of pieces and trying to get the information to everybody and to have the correct information. What are some of the tips that you might be able to offer to everybody during this as a legal side of things?
Well, I think that as you're bringing people back or changing job descriptions or any of that, especially for people who are 1099s, people who have non-competes, people who will work from home some, changing up or adding to your policies and procedures for your manual is important. And people who you might be 1099ing who you weren't, or if you're bringing on people as 1099s, that's all things that you need to be thinking about how you want to change that as you bring them on. A lot of people, I mean, we've got a lot of calls for people who are 1099s who have non-competes, especially like doctor's offices and things that where they stopped having enough business, but they have this non-compete, but they won't let them out of it. People are going to be a lot more savvy to that now. So anybody, I think anybody in the 1099 market or people who have any type of contractual relationship in any way, before you just simply hire people in the kind of doing the same thing that you did pre era, you need to be thinking about maybe redoing some of that. If I was an employee and I was normally 1099 and I had a non-compete, I'd be thinking about all that stuff before I took another job because it's where people are getting pinched. Use time as a time to kind of relook at everything that you do with employees and anything that this is going to touch sick leave, all that kind of stuff, maybe redo it before you bring the people on.
Perfect. And Roger, how about you?
Well, again, this is such an interesting time, and I feel for so many of the employers and so forth that don't know the uncertainty of what's happening, and that's why when we talk about recruiting, if you're recruiting, it's the simplest thing in the world to do right now, quite honestly. And The biggest mistake an employer makes or a recruiter makes is relying on email or some sort of form instead of just picking up the phone. Right now, my number one tip in the recruiting side of things, pick up the phone and call somebody. And for employers that have applied and business owners that applied to the loans, you're probably, how people don't like to answer calls that they don't know the number. I would be answering if you're looking for a job, if you're looking to get money, stimulus money from the government, from a business perspective, those calls aren't going to be people in your Rolodex or your phone thing. And you need to be able to start answering all your phone calls. And good recruiters are making calls directly to people. Pick up the phone and answer it, and employers call those individuals. So that would be my number one tip in that side.
Wonderful. No, that's actually a great tip, because a lot of phones are now forwarded to a lot of people, and you're getting work via personal or either to cell phones and things of such. Are there any other questions from the folks that are attending today that we have not addressed, or you've got another question? We got a few more minutes here. Is there anything else that anybody would like to ask any one of our four panelists? If so, you can chime in or unmute your mic, and you can ask that question if you have a question or concern for them.
Hey Jen, if someone furloughs an employee, that employee they're able to apply to unemployment, right?
They are able to apply for unemployment. They're just, you still get the benefits that the employer offers. But yeah, and they can also go get another job in the meantime. Just because you furloughed them and you're contemplating bringing them back, they are free agents to do whatever they want to do.
All right. And then any employer that has laid some people off or furloughed, I know that system has been crazy online to get through. I know, and Frank might be able to speak to that too. I know they just came out with the mobile version this morning, and I heard that's going pretty well. Do you have any updates on that, Frank? Because I know you guys are dealing with that.
Now, are you talking about the Connect system for unemployment?
Reemployment, yeah, with the mobile version that came out today.
Yeah, so that system wasn't really set up to handle anywhere near this number of people. We've got paper applications out there that FedEx will print out for free. We have boxes of applications in front of all of our career source buildings. I haven't heard too much about the mobile app, but I know that DEO is going to be bringing on a ton more people to answer phones for reemployment assistance.
Oh, good. I know that's a big concern for employers, because the HR people are getting those calls. Hey, I can't get through and get my unemployment and so forth. So it's just an interesting time right now, no question.
Yeah.
Very much so. Well, I do want to appreciate you all coming on, and just in some fashion, for those that are not aware of what we have coming up, everything is posted on our website, and if you missed anything on here and need to follow up with it, we will post the video under our resources. There's all the recorded videos for everything that we've had. But if you are looking for more information of things that are coming up, we are doing a marketing healthcare in the COVID-19 environment on next Tuesday. And that will be at 9 a.m. But with that, if you are doing any marketing, it's probably worthwhile to jump in on that call. It is geared towards our healthcare professionals, but the tips marketing is still marketing. And then as another benefit core, we're doing this one on the 16th. This is next Thursday, again at 9 o'clock. This is restaurant employees. It's the children of restaurant employees helping families through the U.S. And that's core. That's a benefit that if you're a restaurateur or have a restaurant and have had to let families or your waiters, wait staff or cook staff, back of the house, front of the house, have to let them go on anything. There is assistance for them, so we'll be addressing that. Tonight, if you're looking want to get out of some of this COVID talk, we're going to do a trivia night tonight with the chamber. Bring a cocktail of choice. It is BYOB for this, but come on out. We're going to jump on here and do some fun kind of mindless stuff, just to kind of do some a little bit of our social networking that a lot of people have been requesting for too. So we've got a lot coming up throughout the year, through the next month on different pieces. So please stay tuned. With that, there's a lot of resources. We do have a resource hub. We want to make sure that you're getting the best and the most accurate information. If you don't see something, please inform us if we missed it, but we are scouring everywhere that we can to make sure that we're putting up the most relative and relatable information for your businesses. So we're out there working for it. If you have something that you want to post out there that you have doing, if we haven't already done that for you, that is a service we're providing for all members. So I know we had Roger's virtual job fair was up there, and Frank, if there's anything from CareerSource, or Millicent, if you have tips and things like that, you want to put things out there, or any other members, if you have specials or products or services that you're providing, whether virtually or over the internet, please feel free to send us out. We've been working a lot with the restaurants. They've just been very active because they're trying to get every dollar they can. But there's a lot of other small businesses that are struggling, and we're here to help with that, to get whatever we can out. Our advocacy council is meeting tomorrow, so anybody that's a chamber member, we're working on some initiatives with that. It's from 10 to 11 tomorrow. Just give us a holler. You can get that code to be able to log into that. But there's a lot of things that we are advocating for businesses regarding that, and with these different fundings and pieces there too. So there's a lot moving on, and without further ado, thank you all that are chamber members for being here. If you're not, please give us a holler when we get out. But thank you for being here. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all that have supported us, especially our trustees and folks from there. So be glad to rattle those off at another point, but want to make sure we're good on time and running out of that now. So have a good afternoon. Thank you very much for being here. Have a great
Thank
rest of
you.
your day.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thanks. Take care.
Bye. Bye-bye.
This conference will now be recorded.